Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 270. Today we have Andrew Rey, CEO, author, and trusted business funding advisor with Flow Business Funding. His mission is to help business owners start, build, and scale their businesses using little known yet highly effective business credit and financing. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, how are you, Patience?
I'm fine, thank you. I know Declan, he is anxious to hear your story. So let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my client a bit about your background, about what you did before you started your businesses?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Well, I've been one of those entrepreneurs since I was a kid, basically. I always saw the opportunity since I had a lemonade stand when I was a young boy, and then got my own paper route. And realized that we live in a country, especially here in the United States, where entrepreneurism is part of the fabric of our society. So, I aspired to have my own businesses and do things since I was growing up. And I joined in it in my 20s. I actually did go to school for university, backpacked in Europe, traveled all over the world, and then came back. And back in 2003, I got in the mortgage business because I wanted to get into real estate. So I started learning about finance for, buying and selling houses and things of this nature. And then I also started realizing that learning finance is a huge part of entrepreneurism in general. And I was curious about how to build credit for companies, for corporations. And then it started that whole journey to where I am today and doing what I'm doing. So anything you want to know, I'm happy to explain in more detail.
Wow, what a journey. As you said, you've been in business since you were little. So that means you have been everywhere. I've worked with many companies. But what is the most dangerous belief entrepreneurs can have?
Well, honestly, when I talk to so many entrepreneurs, Patients, that the number one thing is breaking down something that a lot of entrepreneurs have a fear about, and that's using credit and leveraging finance in order to increase their business and the chances of success. And the simple fact is most companies go, I know that the statistics here in the United States is that a lot of companies end up going out of business within the first 18 months. And the number one reason for that is they run out of money. So their lack of capital and lack of access to capital is a huge hurdle that until you are faced with it, most people don't want to get into. And the reason for that, in my experience, is that a lot of us were taught in what I call reverse. We're taught, you don't want to use credit and you want to keep your credit score very strong and don't leverage money and don't borrow money and all these things. But the reality is, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're not borrowing money and learning how to do it effectively and the right way, then you're really not playing the game of capitalism, correctly. All big corporations learn to leverage borrowing money from banks. That's the whole way that the capitalist system ends up operating. So the sooner you learn at least the basic principles of that and get over your fears of utilizing your chances of success will skyrocket. And once you unveil that, it starts to really open up new possibilities you didn't even know existed.
I know you mentioned that you would like to help young entrepreneurs to really access this credit and educate them about how to gain credit. But why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I definitely the young entrepreneurs, the millennials, they don't seem to be as resistant as people of my generation anyway. I'm part of the X generation. So we were the bridge between the baby boomers and now what the millennials have risen up and gotten into. And really, the concept that I try and break down with people is that we're learning to use the game board pieces in this game of capitalism. So corporate entities, LLCs, C corporations, S corporations, etc., using different tools like trusts, land trust, Roth IRA, retirement strategies, and instruments. These are the game board pieces. So the sooner we learn to use these, the sooner we can operate in the system the way it's set up. And the way I say it's set up, because if you're going to optimize your taxes, this is a question that you always hear on the news. Like, why do the rich pay the least amount of taxes? And it's not just that the rich do. They're wealthy because they know how to use the system the way it's set up, which is using real estate and corporate entities to offset their tax liability, is really what it breaks down to. So being in strategic good debt, and the difference between good debt and bad debt is bad debt's going to the department store and buying stuff because you want new things and you can't really afford it, so you put it on your credit card. That's bad debt. Good debt is using credit in a way to leverage large amounts of money to be able to make a return on investment, ROI. So that would be something like buying an apartment building. You're in a big debt, but the debt is a business debt, so there's a lot of tax write-offs. And then it's also a debt that brings back passive income, more revenue your way. So that's a huge difference. And learning to use that is a game changer. So people in real estate, for instance, or online businesses, having access to capital in the right way can accelerate their growth in their business, and also, minimize their tax liability, which are two very important things in the game of capitalism.
Yeah, but Andrew, does that still apply to what is happening right now globally?
It always applies. These are principles that have gone on since the beginning of the banking system. So yes, learning to do this, especially now, and I know your podcast is directed towards people that are really wanting to work from home, and become independent entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs. So learning. Okay, here's the way I explain it when I meet with a client, to break it down so it's simpler to understand. It's like, I call it flow and grow. The reason that I named my company Flow Business Funding is because money is nothing more than energy. If we can visualize it like that, it becomes not so difficult to digest or understand. It's just energy. It's just a bunch of zeros moving through computer screen. There's however many zeros are in the bank account you have access to is kind of what your buying capability is, what you're purchasing, what's your quality of life, if you will. So learning to direct that energy in your direction is really what we're trying to do here. So whether it's borrowed money, whether it's revenue from your business, whether, this is the whole goal, is to get that revenue stream happening. And so using corporate entities, using LLCs, and learning to borrow under a tax ID, and doing it the correct way, and tracking the numbers. It's not unlike anything that you're doing as far as marketing. You're tracking numbers. If your podcast, you're tracking numbers. You're getting your message out there, and then it's coming back to you. It's that whole karmic concept of what comes around goes around. So learning to access the money and then flowing it into a new direction. What I mean by that is, if you've got revenue flowing into your company, where is it flowing out of? What are your costs? I hear a lot of these, for instance, here's an example, is at Amazon stores. They're making $90,000 a month, they claim, but my question always to them is, what's your cost and what's your net profit? Because 90,000 sounds like a big number until you realize that you're spending 78,000 on marketing and all your back end stuff and buying the products and everything else. So what's landing in your bank account is actually about 7 or 8 grand. There's your margin, or higher. Again, I'm just using this as an example, but that is what your net, what actually your usable income is coming into your company. So again, flowing and growing that money, taking that extra profit from what you're doing and moving it into a different pool, whether it's making an investment at the end of the year and buying a mobile home park, or starting a new business, or buying a new asset, if you will, some new equipment, building a new team of, hiring some new employees, or whatever the case may be. You're flowing the money in a new direction in order to create more revenue coming your way. And eventually, in my way of looking at it, you want to end up having a nonprofit or a foundation to flow it into so that you can do good for the public, the world at large. And you asked me earlier why I do this. And really, I've been through a lot of crazy stuff in my life, and I've fallen down many times. So I have a passion for helping others not have to feel that pain and suffer as much. So I wish I would have known this in my 20s, and it would have expedited some learning experiences that I had, such as losing everything in the 2008 market crash, I had a mortgage company and I had 5 real estate investments in different states, and I thought I was doing really well. A lot of revenue was coming in, but when it crashed, everything turned upside down very quickly, and my credit got destroyed, my personal credit. This is partly why I learned about how to build business credit, corporate credit, and now I feel a passion to teach others, to pass that information on. And in our company, our basic tagline is education, motivation, and facilitation. So we're trying to educate the people on what's out there and how it works, hence how I wrote my book. And then we motivate, because all of us run into fears. We have days where we just can't get ourselves moving, and sometimes we're just handicapped by procrastination, whatever the case may be. So we all need our hand held sometimes. And then facilitation is we have all the resources available. We're a business loan brokerage, so we're able to provide all different funding options. And then we also have a comprehensive business credit building program that will take you step by step in building credit completely separate from your personal credit. So you're able to separate to your corporate entity or your LLC your credit lines, and that, in addition to having good personal credit, it unlocks access to capital to help you succeed in your business.
Thank you. Okay, I know you said you've been working with many companies and you are teaching many people around the country, but let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
Well, success to me is not just financial. That's definitely one part of being successful. But if you don't have good health, what is having a lot of money in it? If you don't have good relationships with your children, your family, your close people in your life, then is that your measure of success? How about your spiritual growth? How do you feel personally? However you look at that. I'm not here to try and judge, or everybody's got a different spiritual path or journey. But we're here for a very short period of time in our lives, and maybe not 70, 80 years if we're lucky, maybe a little longer. But that's really a blip in the annals of time. So wealth, to me, is being happy, and having a balance between all those things. So having your financial house, your money house in order is very important for sure. And so and how can you equate that? I've traveled, like I said, to all places in the world. I've been to Jakarta, Indonesia. So having money there is a lot different than living in Vienna, Austria, or Amsterdam, or Los Angeles, where I live, where I grew up. Here it's all relative, because we can make $200,000 a year in Los Angeles, and you're barely able to buy a decent house and have a decent life. But down in Brazil, you make $50,000 US, and you're living like a king. So it's very relative to where you're at and what you're doing. So more importantly, do you have a good livelihood? Are you able to provide for those you love? Are you achieving your own personal goals? So, and realize that you could be doing well at one time in your life, like I was back in the 2000s, and then have it all fall apart. And did that destroy me personally? No, I just got back up. My identity wasn't tied to how much money I had. It was tied to who I was, and, being a good father to my son, and being a good friend to the people in my life. And, that kind of thing was more important. I knew I'd get the financial stuff back, because it can come and go. And most entrepreneurs lose everything, at least once or twice. I think I read a statistic that most millionaires that held on to their money lost it twice before that. They went bankrupt. So you have to not be afraid to fall down and fail, and look at it as a learning experience, as opposed to, oh, this is devastating, I'm never going to come back from it. And like you just mentioned, we're in a time now that's unprecedented in history. We've got a worldwide pandemic going on. More and more people are moving from an office or a work environment to being at home, saying, now what? What am I going to do with my life? To me, that's an opportunity if you see it as an opportunity. If your listeners that are listening to your podcast are trying to learn some things, I think a lot of them probably are the ones that are going to be using this as an opportunity, to spend more time with it. I know for me personally, I like working at home because I'm able to spend more time with the people that I care about. and the hardest thing is focusing because you get distracted.
That's what I was going to ask you about. How do you get the balance? Because others are complaining that you'll be on the podcast, the child bouncing, you'll be doing what, the dogs are barking. So how are you finding the balance?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky because I met somebody, and it again goes back to my wealth that I'm engaged to, and she keeps me kind of focused. Built a home office where you just close the door and kind of focus and work. And I'm learning to outsource. A virtual assistant who is like a hand who helps me also stay organized and focused. And I have a team of also people that I work with that help me as well. So, some days than other days, but
as you mentioned, you've been traveling around the world, met lots of aspiring entrepreneurs. But can anyone be an entrepreneur, or are some people more cut out for it than others?
Absolutely. I believe anybody who wants to can be. I believe that if there's a desire in your heart, it was there for a reason. So if where you are in life, I tell everybody, first of all, buy a book, Rich Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That's a game changer book. Start following some of these influencers online that show you, teach you, and motivate you to take some action. Now, to answer your question, I don't think everybody was cut out as an entrepreneur. Some people just don't they feel perfectly have ability or the perceived, because you got it any time, of a job and getting a paycheck. They just want to show up required, and that's good for them. Again, it's not for us to sit here and judge that. Entrepreneurism is not easy. Benefit. There's times that feel anxiety, feel fear, you're not good enough, feel questioning your own abilities, constant growth. There's constant pressure. You're the one that's always the target if things go sideways wrong, and they will. That's life. And so, but if you can achieve freedom, a sense of accomplishment that few things will, you start to design your life the way you want it. So those trade-offs are worth it. But for a lot of people out there, it's not worth it. And they're not willing to do it or overcome their fears. And you will have to face your fears. It's part of the journey. So, for everyone, but for the people brave enough to have the courage to go after it, can be very rewarding,
What have you learned in business as a whole?
What I've learned in business is this is a reflection of your inner going on inside person. Business is a contradiction in ways, because we're taught that these idealistic ways of living, and the reality is unscrupulous people out there. There's a lot of people that take advantage, and they will. And there's you have to deal with falling down. So business is going to be about challenges. So is life. So I look at it like it's a reflection also about the way that life is designed, and you have moments in your life strong and young and youthful, and you got, all these, and then you're going to take that for granted, and before that's going, trade it for wisdom, because you learn but the hard way by falling down at earlier stages of life, how to maybe avoid some of that pain, and how to navigate through a more productive way. Just, when I was young, I would do anything. I was great because, you're immortal in your early 20s, and I was one of those free-wielding, I had there and I played the band, and, when I was in college, I backpacked in Europe, like I mentioned, I went to Southeast Asia. I was just wanting to go check out the world in reality, and read about it or see it, because I wanted to go experience, taste it. And doing that, I had amazing experiences, I have some great memories because of it. But I also got into some trouble, and I made mistakes, and I had some heavy prices for those mistakes. But in the process, definitely feeling of gratitude and appreciation I wouldn't have had if I hadn't done it.
Why is it important to understand the roles of business credit apart from the personal finances? I know you have touched a little bit about that, but some of the people they just confuse business and the personal finances. Do you want to talk about that a little bit briefly?
Absolutely. The difference is let's look at what a corporation is, for instance, your business, your corporate entity. That, to me, everybody asks me, what is a corporation? And I'm like, it's a legal person. It's really your avatar. If you can break it down and look at it like that, it's your partner in navigating this world of business. And all the tax system here in the U.S. is set up with corporations. So if you have a corporation, for instance, you can get hundreds of write-offs. If you're a sole proprietor and you're doing it under your own name and you're the target of all the lawsuits and audits and everything else, and you don't get all the advantages in the tax system the way it's set up. For instance, that's one big thing. Another thing is getting business credit as opposed to personal credit is you separate the liability from yourself. Of course, you're always going to have some liability as the founder of any company, of anything like this, but you're setting things up to be separate from yourself as well. And building corporate credit or business credit enables you to separate that. And what it does is unlock larger amounts of money, more capital to run your business and to start it and to grow it and to, you're going to need money, and it's a never ending process to get more and more funding because, in order to grow and maintain, whether it's buying a new building or buying a new office space or purchasing equipment or leasing equipment for it, depending whatever your business is. I mean, I've dealt with people who are landscapers, truckers, online entrepreneurs, real estate flippers, commercial real estate people. I had a long background in mortgage real estate, so I have a extensive knowledge of how that all works as well. And, it's funny because people will come to me, I don't want to borrow money for my business. And yet they are in a $500,000 mortgage on their house. And I'm like, you already borrowed a lot of money. You did it because you thought it was a good investment, right? Well, I didn't really think of it like that. Well, what about your business? That's an asset too, if you look at it that way, and so accessing money for that is as important, if not more important, because it's going to help pay that mortgage, to be successful. So learning about business credit is essential. And I'm just shocked how many people don't know anything about it. That's why I wrote the book, Entrepreneurial Money Secrets was designed to help people just have easy access. And I'm practically giving the book away. I sold it for a while. It became a bestseller in 6 categories in Amazon. And the whole point of getting it in as many people's hands as possible is to help unlock their ideas about what's available out there. Because going to the bank, you're going to get turned down 90% of the time, but most of the funding in business is done through alternative lending sources. So people knowing about that, knowing how to build their Paydex score, which is their business FICO score, if you will, to start to build business credit in addition to your personal credit. And then, you're able to leverage that access to capital in order to be successful.
In your businesses, do you have a coach or a mentor yourself?
Oh, yeah. We can't survive if we don't have coaches and mentors and consultants, I was an athlete growing up, and, I was pretty lucky. I was gifted in sports. I could run fast. I could, throw a baseball hard, and I could do a lot of things, play basketball really well. But I always had coaches, and I've heard this saying, even Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player ever, well, arguably because there's the LeBron fans nowadays, but, they always had coaches. We all need coaches. We all need mentors. We all need somebody guiding us, because we try and figure it out ourselves. And you're gonna, whether your coach is reality, the school of hard knocks where you're gonna fall down and make a lot of mistakes, or somebody that can supercharge your success by leading you, guiding you, helping you not to make as many mistakes, and help you to set yourself up to be successful in a more user-friendly way, I would say. Hold your hand a little bit,
All right, thank you. What is the most valuable thing your mentors or coaches has told you?
Don't give up. I would say, the persistence is going to be your best friend, because just know that you're going to have hard times. So don't give up. Too many people give up too early, and they never even taste what it is to be successful. And the thing is, when life happens, you could be doing great and something totally unexpected, totally, whether you could be diagnosed with a disease. I mean, we've got this pandemic going on, and my whole family here we thought we were exposed to the COVID, so we all went down and got our tests, and thank God, they all came back negative. But it's one of those things. I mean, it's bizarre. We're going to stores wearing masks. This is crazy. It's like a sci-fi movie. And so who could have saw that last year, coming? And this time last year, everybody's just getting ready for the holidays. And life has been good. The economy's been strong. A lot of people have been successful. I know I still, I'm attached to real estate and mortgage, and that's been booming. A lot of my friends have been doing really well in that. And but out of nowhere, all of a sudden the world turned upside down, and people were losing their jobs, and people were on unemployment all of a sudden, and they're working from home, or they're home more than they've been, and you're reevaluating what's important. So it just goes to show you that don't give up. No matter what, there's always going to be a silver lining if you look for it, and I would say that's the best advice. Keep pushing forward, keep learning.
What is one thing no one knows about you?
Few people know, except the people that are close to me, know that I play guitar. And my passion in it is music and art. I was an artist drawing since I was a little boy, and that's a big part of my creative outlet. I call it my therapy my girl, my future wife, we're engaged now, so she sings in a band and she has her own music and we were just talking this morning about doing some projects together in the coming year and she's helped me reignite my whole passion for this and getting out there. She's like, you're too good to be sitting and playing in your room, So, that's one thing very few people know. They're always surprised. Oh, you play guitar, because I don't really talk about that much, But yeah, I love it.
What grounds you?
What grounds me? I would say my looking in my son's eyes. That definitely puts things in perspective for me. I have a 9-year-old boy he's my heart, he's my blessing, he's my unconditional love. You never experience. I heard people tell me the love they have for their children, and they could explain it, but you never really know what that is until you feel it yourself. And every time I still hug him, and I'm still affectionate with him, I'm still grateful for him. And every time I look in his eyes, it tells me no matter what, I'm doing things for other people in my life at this point. I've been through a lot in my own life, but now I'm giving to the people that I care about. That's really the most important thing for me.
Let's talk about your book. Tell us more about it and how can it help us?
Well, my book is the title of it is Entrepreneurial Money Secrets. And pretty much it talks, I say secrets because, again, it goes into subjects that not a lot of people talk about. Business credit, business funding, and how that all works, and really opening people's eyes. I call it a paradigm shift. It's going to change your perspective on how you're going to approach doing business, because a lot of people go into business with that lack of knowledge, and when you open that up for them, all of a sudden new possibilities open up. They start to think bigger. Because if you're just thinking, oh, I just want to make $100,000 a year from my home and my laptop, that's a great goal. But financial freedom and owning 10 apartment buildings by the time you're 35 or 40, and being able to write all your cars and your vacations and everything off in the proper way if you structure yourself correctly, that becomes a whole new game changer in a lot of people's minds. So I wrote it. The first half of the book is kind of talking about these principles and going into different funding options that are available out there that you may have never heard of. And the second half of the book is actually step-by-step walking you through what business credit is. I call it corporate credit, really, and let me break that down for your audience, because you hear these terms thrown around a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, business credit is anything done under a tax ID. That's how I frame that. And because that can use a personal guarantee, it can be a sole proprietor, it can be a C Corp, S Corp, LLC, anything. A lot of times that kind of funding is going to require either a big revenue coming into your company or a good personal credit score. Corporate credit, on the other hand, is building credit completely separate from your personal credit to your corporate entity or your LLC. So that means that you're not signing your name and having to guarantee or use your personal credit in order to unlock that credit. And how that works is it's really 4 stages. The first stage is setting your company up to be legitimate in the lender's eyes. When people pull your company up, they're going to want to know that you have a professional address, for instance. You're listed with 411. You have a web presence. You have some kind of a website, web presence. You want to take off the @gmail.com or @Yahoo and add your domain so that you look like a professional company. So there's certain criteria that you got to walk through in order to legitimize your company in these lenders' eyes. And once you do that, you're going to want to apply for your what's called a DUNS number. Dun & Bradstreet is the credit reporting agency, the oldest one in the business credit world. And that's where you're going to want to start your credit profile. So knowing those steps and how to set that up is your first process. Second process is you're going to start applying for credit. You're going to get vendor credit first, which is, a lot of these companies will give you your company credit based on the fact that you started up and you're legitimate now, and they recognize that, and they'll do what's called, net 30 accounts. So you're going to want to get that, buy something from the vendor, and then pay it off within usually 3 weeks. You want to, a little tip for your audience is that if you pay in business credit, if you pay off a week early, it boosts your credit more. Because credit in the business credit world, where it's different than personal credit, is that you can leverage. They don't care how much money you borrow or anything like that. You could be 90% of the ratio, and it doesn't matter to them. The only thing that matters is paying on time. If you pay on time or pay early, you're golden, and they'll increase your credit accordingly. So that's something to really know. And then after you establish what's called your paydex score, after a month or 2 months of making payments and buying stuff from that vendor, we call it tiers, 3 tiers. The first tier is vendor credit. The second one's store credit. So then you're going to go after store credit, Office Depot, Staples. You might need stuff like that, Home Depot, Lowe's. You can even apply for some gas cards there's different, we have it in our program. We have all the links. We have all the different vendors that do record and all this kind of stuff. It walks you step by step through it. But then when you establish that, you're going to have, a good solid profile by then. And the third tier is you can go after cash credit accounts. You can go after, bigger equipment leasing and stuff. And all this is done to build your credibility with your company. So that's pretty much the process in a nutshell. My book goes into more detail about that. So, be sure and pick it up. And like I said, I'm giving away basically for 99 cents. So people can download it, or, if you want to pay shipping, we'll ship you a copy. Just pay for shipping and we'll get it out to you. So yeah, it's really about empowering entrepreneurs with stuff they probably didn't know about, but it's super powerful and super important in their business life.
Tell my client about the magic moment, the day it suddenly all went right for you.
The magic moment for me was, I would say about 16 years ago in September, I got sober. And I was, again, we could do a whole nother podcast on this part of my life, but I went through a lot of dark times, and I found myself in a depressed state, and I was drinking heavily and really committing suicide slowly, if you really want to know the truth. And I came to a moment in my life where I just, whatever you want to call it, a higher power, God, however you look at that, I can't really tell people, but there was something that came over me that saved me. I was in the hospital in Newport Beach, California, and I was on oxygen. They had IVs in me. They pumped my stomach. I was bleeding, throwing up blood. I had pancreatitis. My eyes were turning yellow, jaundice from my liver shutting down. They were telling me I was a diabetic, and if I lived through the night, I was always gonna have to take insulin and stuff. So I was praying, and I was shaking, and my body was giving out, and then something took me out of that. It was like I just got this something come over me. It wasn't like I was visited by anything in particular, but I just had this feeling, this emotion that changed the course of my life, and just let me know I was gonna have another opportunity, and I had to make this one count. That I had to change a lot of things in my life. And from that moment forward, I never felt any desire to drink again. I got humble within the next morning. The doctor came in, and she was about to give me my insulin shot, and she looked at my blood sugar, and she was like, "Wait a minute, I don't know what's going on here, but you're stabilizing, and I can't explain it. I don't know what's going on, but your body's coming back." I don't know why or how it's happening. And I knew, and I told her, I said, this happened last night. And she goes, well, medically or scientifically, we can't, that doesn't make sense. But I can't deny that I'm going to keep an eye on you, and we're not going to give you insulin. And by 3 days, my body was returning. My health started coming back. And I even get chills right now, even at this moment forward. And so that was when I knew that I had another opportunity to live this life. And soon, a few years after that, within 6 months of that experience, I had bought my first condo. I got back in the mortgage business. Within a year after that, I bought 5 more investment properties, and then I had my son soon after that, and all these blessings came about, and that's why when the crash happened in 2008, when we lost everything financially, but I didn't lose everything. I didn't go back to drinking. I didn't go back to my depression. I just, all it was just a stop in the road, and and a learning experience that I used to propel me into what I'm doing now. And we never know what direction our lives are going to take. We all assume that we know, but the fact is, what's around the corner is definitely not something we can know. And we don't even know if tomorrow's promised. So
let's talk about your book. Tell us more about it. What inspired you to do this one, and why now?
You know what? No, I'm working on my second book. I'm working on is more my whole journey, my personal story. But yeah, this book came about. We have guides and things like that as well, to help. This was the first comprehensive book that I wrote. And yeah, it was just, it had been sitting in my mind for about 10 years to do it. I think fear held me back from it. And it just, now's the time it's all coming together. I finally have faced some of my own personal stuff and I'm ready to get out there and tell the story and help as many people as I can. So I guess sometimes, your destiny or the time in your life arises and you got to step up and step into it. So that's why even you and I are talking, because before I was so introverted, I couldn't even talk to anybody. People that know me are like, oh, you're not introverted. I'm like, not with you, but I get very shy and still get nervous, so yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Where can we find this book, and how can we connect with you? And if people want to work with you, where can they find you?
There's two places on the web that you can go. The first one would be our website for our company, which is flowbusinessfunding.com. Flow like flowing water, FLOW, businessfunding.com. And you can download our free guide, and it'll opt you into our email list. So we put out information every week. So, you'll learn about equipment financing, you'll learn about business credit, be invited to other trainings or webinars. And then also you can download a book at Entrepreneurial Money Secret Start. And then I think it's still 9 cents and you can download it or go to Amazon. You can also download it on Amazon for 9 cents as well. Or those are the sources. And if you want to just call in consultation, it's 844-40-FLOW. So it's our number and you can set up an appointment. Lately I've been getting more appointments because the more people that seem to be interested. Actually, we set up a session, so there's no ties. We're not trying to sell you. Not trying to see where you're at and how we can. So any of your listeners want to set up one of those, again, 844-440-3569.
Thank you for sharing. So, Clan, there will be more from Andrew in a moment. If you are listening on one of the many podcasting platforms rather than my website and you're encouraged by Andrew's journey, go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for a bonus portion of the interview. The Online Success Journey is a wonderful membership community built for people searching for the path to success. We are one big clan and you can be part of this community for free. Once you have joined the clan, click on part 2 of Andrew's journey or over 250 other journeys that are available and learn how you can find the right path for your own online success. That's a wrap, clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Andrew.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of patients and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.